and gentlemen, we're going to take a look at today's lesson. And it's factor by grouping. And really what grouping means is we're looking for greatest common factors among different sets of terms. What's really nice about this is that your book groups them for you. So we're going to take a look at these first two terms and find their greatest common factor. We're going to take a look at the second two terms and find their greatest common factor. And when we do that, guys, we see some similarities in there. The greatest common factor of 2 and 3 doesn't exist. It's 1. It doesn't divide anything and change. So we have x to the third and x squared to rely on. And here it's going to be an x squared. 100% of your problems, guys, that first greatest common factor is going to be a variable. And more than likely, it's going to be x squared. When I divide that out, I'm left with 2x minus 3. Now what happens is this 2x minus 3 is going to be common between the first and second terms. When we talk about greatest common factors, we're going to create another common factor, 2x minus 3. And so for 10 and 15, I have to find their greatest common factor, which is 5. But I have to use that 2x minus 3 to help me get correct signs. And what I look at that is a positive divided by a negative is a negative. And so I'm going to have negative 5. And so we kind of do a double check. What's negative 5 times negative 3? There's that positive 15 that I need. All right, so greatest common factors aren't too bad. Notice here again with this 5, there was that negative in the middle, that subtraction, so that negative comes down there. So we have a couple of ways of getting our correct sign. What I need to recognize, though, is now that these have a greatest common factor. And we're going to factor that out, we're going to pull it out, and it's going to be 2x minus 3. So these find their way over here. What we're going to create then, ladies and gentlemen, is kind of what I call the leftovers. All right? I call this last one the leftovers. And so what that means is from this first set of terms, once I take out 2x minus 3, I have x squared. I can physically take out 2x minus 3, and there's the x squared that I said. From this second set of terms, I have a minus 5. As I said, I can physically take out 2x minus 3, and there's the x squared minus 5. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what's called factor by grouping. So let's take a look at another example. We have x to the third minus 4x squared plus 3x minus 12. Remember, my first set of terms are going to have a greatest common factor. My second set of terms are going to have a greatest common factor. X to the third and 4x squared are going to have x squared as their greatest common factor. And so I have x minus 4. Remember, I want that x minus 4 over here, so I usually write that down right away. I then have 3 and 12. It's going to be 3 for the greatest common factor. And we can kind of see that, guys, that it has to work there. And so use this to help you with your signs. This is a positive 3x. I need to have positive 3x here. Also, double check. A positive 3 times a negative 4 is a negative 12. So my x minus 4 is now the common factor between those two pieces of work. So x minus 4 is factored out. I'm left with x squared, and I'm left with a positive 3. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is an x squared. It could factor down more, but because it's a positive 3, it doesn't. All right? We're going to take a look at our third example here and show you what it looks like when it does continue factoring. All right, so let's take a look here. We have 4y to the third plus 12y squared minus 25y minus 75. So once again, your first set of terms, your second set of terms. 4 and 12 have a greatest common factor of 4. Y to the third and y squared have y squared. So let's leave it with y plus 3. And I should color code that for you guys. I try to do that. Y plus 3. The reason I color code that is what's in green has to repeat. The greatest common factor of 25 and 75 is 25. And we can see that, but you should also see with that negative that it needs to be a negative 25. I'm going to take my y plus 3 and factor that out. Take that out as the greatest common factor. And so my leftovers are 4y squared minus 25. I told you that we would have something that continues factoring, and this expression here does. Y plus 3 is done. It can't factor any farther because it's linear. But 4y squared minus 25 can factor. It's a difference of 2 squares. And ladies and gentlemen, we learned to factor this back in chapter 5. So yes, we're going to keep building on what we've learned before. So we have 4y squared minus 25. We're going to factor that into two binomials. 4y squared is 2y times 2y, because the square root of 4 is 2. 25 is 5 times 5, because the square root of 25 is 5. And in order to get a negative 25, I have to have one positive, one negative. If we look, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring down my y plus 3. And now every single term in our problem is linear, so we know that there's no more factoring. All right, you need to turn your notes over because you have it on your own. You're going to do 4y to the third plus 12y squared plus x plus 3. I'm going to pause here, give the sub some time to come up and hit pause on the video, and then you'll get some time to work. Once you guys start to get a little bit restless, get stuck, have the sub hit play, and we'll go through there. All right, we'll take a look. 4x cubed plus 12x squared is 4x squared. That's going to leave me with x plus 3. I need to have x plus 3 here, and it just so happens that I have x plus 3 here, but I still have to have a greatest common factor. You have to use greatest common factors twice, ladies and gentlemen. You have to do that. So the greatest common factor of x and 3 is simply 1, and it's okay to have a plus 1 there. At this point, the process looks the same. X plus 3. I'm then going to take my leftovers, 4x squared and plus 1. Because this is a plus 1, I cannot go any farther with my factoring, and so we are done. Ladies and gentlemen, your assignment tonight is on page 349. You're going to keep on that page. We're going to keep working. You do 41 through 49. You have 9 problems to do tonight, so not too bad. And we will see you tomorrow.